All right, everybody, we are back with another episode of Wealth for the Culture. I got the money man here, jack of all trades. This man doing a little bit of everything. I don't see too many people like this. 25 years old. Just found out that the man is no longer working for a job, full-time entrepreneur. If you don't know about him, you probably seen his podcast. He's Money Monopolizers Podcast. I had his co-host on here about a couple months back. We got Alex Kamunyo. How you doing, brother?
Hey, man, my man, Ollie. It's a pleasure to be on here, man. I appreciate you, man. It was, we met a couple of weeks ago back at the Bosses and Brunch event in Dallas, and that was a dope event. So, getting able to connect with people like that, and being able to connect with you is dope, man. So I love your platform and what you got going on too. Because I was mentioning too earlier how you pretty consistent with your content and stuff too. So it's like, you doing it right, man. So I'm happy to be on here, and I'm excited, man, to get into this conversation because I know we got a lot to get into.
Bro, let me tell y'all something. I used to think that I do a lot of stuff and I try a lot of things until I started following y'all's journey. The amount of stuff this man does, I honestly don't know when he sleeps. I don't know how he get it all done. We're about to get into it. But first off, break down everything you got going on, familiarize my listeners that may not know who you are. If you don't know who he is, y'all living under a rock. Top 50 podcast now, Money Monopolizers. Just go ahead and give him a little introduction, man.
Yeah, man. So my name is Alex. I'm a 25-year-old entrepreneur and real estate investor as of today. And full time that is. So man, I can I'll start from a couple of years ago, and we'll go from there. So, I grew up in Houston, actually. I live in San Antonio today, but I grew up in Houston, Pearland. We talked about it actually whenever, we was over because you from Houston too. So, but I growing up, it was always like, I just want to be rich. And that's all I know. That's no matter what I did, I just needed to be rich. Don't know how I was gonna get there. I just know I need to be rich. So for me, I was always very money conscious, from a young age, saving money. I never knew about investing, but I was always like saving money and preserving money because I knew it's like money just gave me a sense of like comfort to an extent, right? I just feel like comfortable when I have a good amount of money. And so I grew up, that's like with the mentality. I was pretty cheap too, really frugal. So I never really spent a lot of money. So anyways, I ended up coming to San Antonio in 2014 to go to college and studied civil engineering over at University of Texas in San Antonio and graduated after in December of 2017. And then actually that same year, I actually had an internship. And this was like my first time working like a real job, like a legitimate job. And I started working there in January of that year. And literally like a few weeks even into working that job, it was kind of like I saw what was in store for the rest of my life. Like that was the first glimpse I saw. It's like, okay, this is like what you do when you're an adult. I didn't think much of it until I really saw this old man that was there. And this man was like, he was at least 60, probably 70 years old. I mean, I don't know, he was a white man. So, it's hard to tell for a lot of white people. But, it was interesting though, because it's like, I would be there and it's like, I'm seeing this old man and it's like, man, I really don't want to be 60 years old still working at this job. Cause it's like, I was always motivated by results. And like, so I was always motivated by like doing something, getting a result from it and like moving on to the next thing. So for me, once I was in school, it was like, okay, I'm motivated by getting A's. That's something I can actually tangible result. I can see cool. It gives me like some fulfillment. But once I started working, it was like, dang, there's no end to this. Like, there's no fulfillment to this. Yep. Like, what is the result? What is the goal that I'm gonna get? Like, what is the fulfillment I'm gonna get? Like, there's nothing. Like, if I go to school, I say, okay, my goal is to get an A. I get that A, I feel good. Move to the next thing, the next A, whatever. But it's like working. There's nothing. You just work until that's it. So anyway, when I kind of saw that was like, I knew at that point I was like, okay, I can't work for the rest of my life. So I started like researching how do people get rich? How do people get wealthy? And one thing I saw was real estate. that was like one of the things that kept coming up. Real estate, real estate, real estate. So I was like, let me check out this real estate thing. And so Robert Kiyosaki, he kept coming up on YouTube. Rich Dad Poor Dad. I was like, let me check out this book. Bought the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. And so that was like, at that time, it was like end of the summer of my last year in school. And I told myself, hey, cool, I'm already finna finish my degree, so I might as well finish it, get a job. So, but I know as soon as I graduate, my mind is shifting from work, whatever, to figuring out how I can retire from my job as early as possible. So, whenever I, graduated, I read that book, and I knew real estate would be, my vehicle for freedom, at least at that time, right? And so I started working, January 2018, and I said, cool, I need to learn everything about real estate. So I read like 4 real estate books, listened to hundreds of Bigger Pockets real estate podcasts, bought my first property that summer when I was like, I guess I was 20. I just turned 22 that summer. And, bought my first property. It was a garage apartment, lived in a garage, ran out the main house, made money while I was living there. Cool. Bought a flip that same year, bought another flip the next year, bought another rental, bought another flip, bought another rental. And so it was kind of like, at that point, I was like, cool, real estate is going to be my thing. But it got to a thing where it's like, I guess end of 2019, I kind of like, that's when we started the podcast. And so originally my goal was like, I'm going to achieve financial freedom by age 28. That's my goal. Age 28 is when I want to leave my job. And so I know I'm going to do that using real estate. So I said, at least by the minimum, I'm going to buy 1 property a year, and I'll be able to do that because that's 1 property a year. For 7 years, that's at least 7 properties, multiple units. So it's probably like 14 units if I was buying at least a duplex, which I only buy at least 2 units. So I said, okay, 14 units, that'd be enough for me to probably leave my job. If I'm cash flowing about 200, 250 per door. But it got to a point, it's like, dang, this is actually like really slow. Like it's actually taking really long. Like I really don't have any patience to work till I'm 20. Cause I was like, I'm working at my job and it's like, they telling me to do all this work. I'm working late. And it's like, I'm seeing like, again, that old man that I saw at my internship, I saw him like, he actually moved to the company I started working with when I actually graduated. He was actually started working at that company too. And I seen this man. It's like, it's funny because like, I'm 21 at the time and I'm working, and it's like in engineering, civil engineering over here, it's like sometimes you work in late hours. So I was working till like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. It was a couple times I was there till 10 o'clock. And I'm seeing this old man there too sometimes. And it's like, it's one thing for me to be right here working at 21 years old for me to be here. But for you to be 60, 65, 70 years old still here at 8 o'clock, along with other 30 and 40-year-olds still here at 8 o'clock, it's like, y'all got family. I ain't going home to nothing. I'm going home I'm probably go work out. I'm gonna, eat something, chill, and that's it. Read some books, that's it. Y'all got families and kids. It's like, I know they want y'all to be home. So at that point, it was like, I don't even want to do this for, 6, 7 more years. I need to figure out how to get out of here faster. So that's when we started the podcast. And when we started the podcast, Money Monopolizers, it was May 2019. It was more so like we saw how many like different ways there were to build wealth. So, it was like we saw that there was, so many, it wasn't just real estate. So at that point I was like, okay, I don't have to just do real estate. I can actually get freedom faster if I start a business, and from that business, then that'll give me my freedom. And then I can take the money from the business and buy more real estate even faster than I could from a job if the business gets profitable and I scale it. So that's when my formula changed from now, instead of 9 to 5 to real estate to financial freedom, it was now 9 to 5 to business to real estate. Well, 9 to 5 to business to freedom to real estate to wealth, right? Because real estate is going to build your long-term wealth. So real estate is still in the plan, but I know business can get me freedom faster. So because the cash flow potential is a lot greater in business than it is in real estate, just because you have an unlimited customer base in business, as opposed to real estate, you only got a few people that can rent your properties. So anyways, that year, 2019 and 2020, I started probably nearly 10 different businesses. And I'm saying I didn't just like dabble into, I invested over $30,000 into so many different businesses over the course of the next year. Trucking, mobile homes, vending machines, a marketing agency, Amazon FBA, stock options, so many different things that I was just like, yo, one of these is gonna hit. And then one of the other ones that I tried too was the cleaning business. And I started that one at the end of last summer, in August of last summer. And for me, that was the one that ended up hitting. So I started that business, and I grew to, within the first year, I hit 100,000 in the first 9 months, and then next 100,000 in the next 3 months. So I did 200,000 in the first year, and from that, just as of July, I was able to officially replace my income from my engineering job with just my what I pay myself from the business now, and that was enough for me to be able to give them that deuces and quit the job. So that's where we at today.
First off, bro, congrats for getting out of that, man. Because I know exactly what you're talking about when you mentioned seeing these old men in there working. Because I got the same situation on my job. This is a guy that's in there probably 8, 9 o'clock at night every day. It don't make no sense. He get there at 8, 9 in the morning. So I'm just like, man, I don't know how you do this. And I know he got a family. So I definitely understand what you're saying. Like I told you, I'm on my ticket clock too now. At this point, I'm working. That's got to be the goal. Like, don't get me wrong, 9 to 5s. If that's what you want to do, cool. That's what I tell everybody. Like, if that's your path, you want to do that. If you like that, that's fine. But it's a lot of people that just got a different mentality, and they don't want to do that. They find something, like this brother said. He started off with just thinking, "Hey, I'm gonna just do real estate forever." Then the podcast. This is what I like to tell everybody. Like, podcast is really a hack. Because you find out that you don't even know what you don't know. You start learning about all these different industries. Next thing you know, we got people like Alex on here, 200K first. This is the first year. So just imagine, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into that soon. But just imagine 200K your first year in business. You get a business going and you get 200K. Like, that's crazy. That's like, I ain't gonna say it's unheard because people do it, but a lot of people, they think that it's not attainable until they start seeing somebody, especially we see young black people, like, that shit get me going. Like, when you see young black people out here doing it like that, getting it, you realize, well, okay, I might be able to do this. And so it becomes something that it ain't just like a pipe dream no more. It's like, okay, I can make this reality. But also don't take it lightly, because this man said 30,000 that he put into different businesses. That's a different type of mentality you got to have to just even take that kind of chance on yourself. But at the end of the day, what would you rather do? Wait till you 60 or take a chance on yourself right now? He don't, like you mentioned, he ain't got much to lose. He don't have a family. And he set himself up nice because he house hacked off for it. So let's get into, I want to get it first. Let me ask you this. Now, going back, knowing what you know, we'll just kind of do a hindsight check. Was college worth it? Because me personally, I tell everybody I think college is a scam to an extent. So what's your thoughts on the college thing?
Yeah. So, and I'm going to answer that. But real quick, I want to touch on just something you briefly said too, in terms of like, because people, because what happens with social media especially is like, I can post like how much my business makes and stuff like that, but nobody sees actually what actually it took to get that. Nobody saw me investing into 8 different businesses, trying them all, none of them hitting, losing tens of thousands of dollars. Nobody sees that. Nobody sees me up at 3, 4 a.m. making my SOPs, creating my systems, building my business, learning about that. Nobody sees that kind of stuff. Nobody thinks about the fact, oh, I've actually been house hacking for 3 years, so I'm able to actually take these kind of risks. Yeah. I have, properties. I have, my housing is covered. All those things go into the fact that I was able to leave my job at this as early as I was able to and retire from the 9 to 5 life, is because I do there's a whole bunch of other things behind the scenes. So that's what I want people to really understand. It's like, you can look at my story and stuff, but understand it's like, it's not just, it didn't just happen because I just like, it wasn't a linear, approach. There was a whole bunch of stuff going behind the scenes. So anybody can do this, but understand it's like, it's not just that straightforward. It takes a lot of stuff. So I just wanted to touch on that because that's a really good point. Now, to answer your question with the college. So this is actually, a interesting subject, because for me personally, I really look at it one way. Like, honestly, if you are going to college and people don't look at college as an investment. Like, in the same way, if you're going to invest into a business or invest into the stock market, you want to make sure you're getting a return. So if I'm going to invest into a college education, I know I need to get a return. So in order for me to get a return worth the investment, I know I need to get a high paying job. The only reason I became an engineer because I want to be rich. Like I said when I was younger, I said I want to be rich. I didn't know how I was going to do that, but I knew at least engineers made a lot of money.
Yep.
So that would be enough to at least get me started to get rich somehow. It will give me at least a good, starting point, right? I mean, I was 21 years old making nearly six figures. So coming out of school. So that is definitely something that's like, worth consideration. Now, when it comes to college itself, it's worth it if you are going to get a job that is going to pay you a good salary starting off, because the 9-to-5 job, your 9-to-5 job is your first investor. Your 9-to-5 job is that platform that you're going to use to get you to financial freedom, right? People just look at a 9-to-5 like something they just got to go to, whatever, pay their bills. Like, no, use that as look at it as like, yo, they're investing into me. So I know if I'm going to go to college, obviously now, I wasn't thinking like this now, but I'm glad I went to school and got something that was lucrative, because I was always money minded. But like, if I'm gonna go to school and study, dance or social studies or something like that, and try to get a job from there, I got to understand that, like, yo, I'm not gonna get a high paying job. So it's worth it if you're going to get a high paying job. Otherwise, it's not worth it to get into all that debt, because at the end of the day, college, public education, school, all of that is just a system that's meant to create employees. At the end of the day, it's a system that's meant to create citizens. It's a system that's meant to control people in society, right? To put you into debt and to teach you how to be subordinate. That's how I believe public schools, and then also college, that's the purpose of it. So it's not meant for you to actually learn anything. Like, if it was meant for you to learn anything, they wouldn't make you take 2 years of stupid basic classes that are useless.
Yep.
You're a customer, right, to the colleges. So go there, and if you're gonna get a high paying, really, it's like, if you're not getting a STEM degree, or you're not getting some sort of business or sales or a degree that's gonna put you in a position to make a lot of money, it's pointless, because there's so much free information out there today that you can learn so much from people that are actually teaching what you actually want to do for a lot less money. So
first off, I'm glad you hit on first thing first. That's why I try to tell people nowadays. Certain majors that you can go get, where it makes it worth it. It's the opportunity cost, basically. Like, if you ain't gonna come out making, if you gonna go in and get $40,000 worth of debt, and you gonna come out making $35,000 or $40,000, like, is it really worth it? Personally, I say no. So that's why I'm glad you hit on that. Also, people understand that those courses that you take, that a lot of people, you may have bad experience with the courses with some people online, but a lot of these courses are actually good. They give you the step-by-step booklet to get started, and it's still cheaper than paying to go to college. That's what it took me a long time to get out of that. Like, oh, these courses, like, people that do these courses, they scam. Like, but once you actually take one and you actually start making money from it, and seeing that, okay, I can actually get 4 figures in a day. Like, when you start seeing stuff like that, that's when the whole mentality shift. Like, well, damn, what did I go to college for? But again, I'm glad you hit on that. Like, STEM, if you try to do something with STEM, that makes sense. Like, I tell people, like, my main thing now at this point, from seeing the workforce, not even business, like, I got my MBA and all that. Like, I don't tell nobody go do that route. I tell them go do like cybersecurity or something.
Yeah.
That to me is the best route to go. Or engineering. If you want to go to the medical field, yeah, that's cool, but you're gonna be in school for quite a while. So I ain't trying to be the career student thing. I don't mess around with that at all.
Yeah.
So to each his own.
Yeah.
But what you did? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's a good point though, because like with right now, like, honestly, the best field to get into is going to be anything computer related, like tech related, computer related. Like you said, cybersecurity, computer engineering, software engineering. Dude, if you can go to, it's people that's like 21 years old, living in California, 22 years old, making $150,000 a year. Obviously, they're living in the Bay Area, all that kind of stuff. So you got to account for that. But even like in Texas, you can make six figures. Like Tayon Tech, he's Tavion Payton. We interviewed him on our podcast. He's in Dallas. He's a security engineer. He teaches people how to get into the tech industry, and he's making. I think he said he was making like 120,000 or something. That's
I just had Gene Marshall on my podcast not too long ago. He was in cybersecurity. He was making six figures. So like it's just common.
Yeah. So that's really the if you don't see yourself, because the thing about it is like the degree is going to be it's at least a security blanket. Having a job, it's a security blanket at least. Like that's why I don't care about spending money into business and taking risks. Cause like, I know, I got a degree. I got a job. My worst case scenario is going to be everyone else is normal. I can go get a job. So It's not
And
only you.
that's a bar right there though. Worst case scenario is everybody's normal. And people don't think like that. People think like in the opposite way, like, oh, they think it's riskier to go out and start a business. Well, really, what's the worst thing that happens? You just end up where you was at to begin with.
Right.
And so it really, when you start thinking about it like that, there's really no risk attached to it. Now, don't be stupid like I was when I first got going and blowing it, doing dumb stuff because you never had, you never got to live that type of life growing up. Like, don't do that. Do it strategically, like Alex here, because I didn't even think about, like, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in college, but I was playing ball. So, you read that in the summer, you go back to school, you start seeing that life, going out parties. I'm like, oh, forget that. And you got to stay disciplined with that. So, this brother right here is like the true definition of what discipline is. You and Marlon, like, I like, y'all just on another level with that. Me, I was out there partying and stuff. I didn't care. And seeing y'all boys, man, it made me like proud, man. I'm like, man, like this is crazy. Like they actually doing it the right way. Cause you could have easily, like, if y'all follow Alex there, the man just was posted. He was out in I don't know where y'all went on a trip, but you was making like $1,000 a day, I think. Just get $1,000 deposits. He put this post up on Instagram, and people will see that. They'll see $1,000 a day, and next thing you know, they got a BMW i8 or something out in the parking lot or something at their apartments or so, wherever they living at. And instead, this man, like, he's sitting there saying like he's living in like a house hack situation right now. He's fine with that. Delayed gratification though, because I can promise y'all in the next 5 years, this man gonna have a mansion or something. I don't know where it's gonna be, but he gonna have a mansion somewhere.
I already know where it's gonna be. I already know everything. It's all planned out, bro. It's like it's all already there. And I ain't even tripped. Like, bro, I'm still driving the same car since I was 16, bro. Like, it's like.
And this is what I'm saying. Like, people ain't got that type of, like, especially making the money that he's making. People don't have that in them to just stay down till you come up. And he's already came up, and he's cool with still waiting. Because at this point, he's taking something where he's just scaling everything he has going on.
Right.
Also, question: just talking real quick, like, because now that you're a top 50 podcast, I ain't even hit my first year yet. So talking to somebody that's been in the game for a minute, you hit the charts at this point. Tell people kind of like how the podcast, like doing podcasts, changed things for you, especially financial podcasts.
Yeah, man. So we started the podcast May of 2019, and it was like people don't realize the podcast is probably one of the hardest things to do because it's something that's like you do not see fruits for it for a long, long time because people don't. The thing about a podcast is like people aren't going to take you serious until you take it serious. So it's like if you start a podcast and you start missing weeks. You start, not posting consistently. You post like when you feel like it. You don't post things that people actually want to listen to. You don't have good content. You don't have, good sound. Just things like that are easy to fix. You don't have, you're not doing well. People aren't going to take you serious. So it's like when you do something that long, like we do our podcast 1 episode every week since pretty much May 2019. But for the first year, we missed probably, I would say maybe 20 weeks. We weren't even that consistent with it. But like really last year we got really consistent. This year we've been super consistent. And that's when it kind of really started taking off a little more. And so we actually don't really even like monetize the podcast at all. And the reason we don't do that is because once you monetize the podcast, it does kind of decrease the quality of the podcast slightly because now people have to listen to ads, it interrupts the flow a little bit. And for us, it's like until it's like enough to make like, I'm saying like at least 5 figures a month from the podcast, it's not worth disrupting the quality of the podcast until it's gonna make to make $100. I care more about the listener experience than making $100 off the podcast. Like it's not that big a deal to me. I mean, so
for you, especially like you got so many businesses going at this point, you bringing in money. So this is just like ice on the cake to get y'all exposure, really.
Right. And so that's the biggest thing about it. It builds the brand. And it also, the thing about the podcast is it's like, and I'm sure because you've been doing the podcast for almost a year now, but it's like people form relationships with you and you never even get to talk. You never even had to talk to them. Like people begin to know you. People begin to relate to you. People begin to trust you and you have never even talked to them because they have now built a relationship with you every single week. They're listening to you. some of them go back and binge. Like people will find you and go listen to your first episode.
And that's the real key right there. When they find you having that, because you were consistent, you have that content that they can go and just binge through it. Really,
right? So yeah, and we release episode 98 or 99 tomorrow, and we're actually releasing episode 100 next week. So we just now hitting 100. We should have hit it probably earlier this year if we had been more consistent early on, but now we're taking it a lot more serious. Being a lot more consistent with it, looking over the production quality, investing more money into it now, and doing in-person podcasts in Houston. So it's something that's like now we're looking at it long term, because right now, they're giving $300 million podcast deals.
Man, I see one. I seen that one girl. She got like, I think she did get like 60. I don't know. It was crazy though. Joe Rogan getting like 100 mil. I'm like, damn.
They look like NFL, NBA contracts, bro. I'm like, that's long term. I would love to do that full time. Just be a podcaster. I would love to do that. So that's our vision with the podcast. But like, it's been amazing it's the cheat code, man. Getting to network with the individuals that you can network, because it's like you provide value to them by exposing them to your audience, and you get to network with them, build a relationship with them. Oftentimes, you can get their phone number afterwards, talk to them offline. It's a cheat code having a podcast. So it's something that, I think everybody should have a podcast, but just understand it's something you had to be like 100% committed to, the consistency of it, especially for the first 2 years, really even now. I mean, it's like I would say you got to be ready to like not see anything from it for a good 3 to 5 years. Like mentally be prepared for that. So.
And a lot of people wonder, like, oh, what if I don't have the downloads or the listen? Like, it don't matter. Like, if you got, I see people, we'll just put it in perspective. I see people on Instagram with 1,000 followers or less monetizing and making money. So just because you might have, 50 people listening or even 20 dedicated listeners, take advantage of that. Because once they start getting invested in you, that word of mouth spread is like the ultimate marketing tool. Like, it costs you no money. Just make sure. To me, that's why I like how you were saying that y'all worry more about the quality of the podcast over trying to monetize so early. And it's crazy because you saying early, but y'all are on the charts now. And like people don't realize how big that is to even be getting on the charts. So just take that into perspective. And you say y'all been doing this for 2 years. So y'all weren't worried about getting on the charts. Anything like y'all were just trying to put out quality content. And y'all's format of y'all's podcast is real like dope to me, because y'all have like a whole I guess like introductory session where there's you and Marlon just, breaking down how y'all stuff went. And it's crazy because I kind of see something like that's like using my best part, because that gives the audience a chance to follow your journey. And especially for y'all, because y'all are so young, most people that are listening to these podcasts are younger. We're in such a niche field because we're all talking about financial education and literacy and how to get financial freedom. People can relate to you more because now they can say, okay, he's 25, so it's not like he's 40 years old doing this. Like this is a young man doing this, making 6 figures, able to quit his job. So that's what I want people to take in and understand. Like, it's okay to have delayed gratification, because because you don't see the top 10 the first week, that don't mean, especially with podcast charts, like those change daily at this point, I think. Yeah. So honestly, you might be top 50 one day and might be 100 next. It don't matter,
bro. And every day because I didn't even know we was on the charts till like last week, and I looked at it and I was just like, oh, we on the charts, and I saw it and it was like 52. I looked at the next day, it was like in the 60s. Then I looked at the next day, it was like 55. So it's like it always changes. It doesn't necessarily matter. I'm not really necessarily worried about it, especially because like, bro, until it's like, I don't care about being in charge. I'd rather make money from it, like long term. So,
well, that's another thing. Doing what we do, the connections alone, me people that's making 6 figure, like we talking about 6 figure years, and we got people in the space making 6 figure days. So just to be able to be in those circles and connect people like that, see people making the $20,000 months, the $100,000 months, and it's just like you realize it does something to you. Yeah. And on top of that, like you said, pretty much every guest I had on as well, I get their number, I get their contact information. You keep in touch with them, reach back out to them. Just because you don't want to do what they're doing, don't mean you can't keep in touch just to have somebody else in your network, because you never know what will come on later down the line.
Right.
So, but I want to get into the real estate for you, man, because I don't understand how. Like, I want to understand how you did what you did, because don't put that light, man. Like, break down your like whole thought process of real estate, like how you kind of find your deals,
Yeah.
and what got you in the house hack, things like that.
Yeah. So honestly, my favorite thing about real estate is, oh my God, I love real estate so much. But it's like there's so many things about it that I love. And I think, starting off, it was more so just being able to eliminate my largest expense was like the number one thing that I was like, I got. That's like that was enough to get me like hooked on real estate. Like, cause I graduated college and I was like I said, making good money. I'm living in the nicest place I could live in the city in San Antonio. And it's like, I was paying like $1,200 a month in rent, which in San Antonio is a lot of money because this is a relatively cheap city. So I'm living like in this nice place. And it's like, I find out about house hacking. I'm like, wait, I can really actually make money just by living, or I can live for free. And that's like, I don't care. I'm moving. It's like no question about it. I'm going to do that. And so what I want people to understand about that whole thing is like that concept of comfortability versus profitability. And this is something I like to talk about because I think it helps people understand when you're young, it's like really no matter where you are in life, this always applies. There's a spectrum, right? On one side, you have comfortability, and on the other side, you have profitability. So in the sense of like, if I wanted to, let me see, how should I say this? When I graduated, it was like I could live in the best place that I wanted and the best place I could afford, and I'm paying $1,200 a month to live there, or I can house hack, and ultimately might not be in the nicest area, right? But I'm gonna be living for free or really cheap, right? So I'm really profitable on one side, and I'm really comfortable on one side. So you got to pick what's more valuable to me. Me at that time 21, now 25, still the same thing applies. That profitability is way more valuable than comfortability. Like it doesn't even make sense right now, especially not having kids, not having a wife. I don't care about being as comfortable. It's not a priority. I need to be profitable. Once I have a kid and a wife, then comfortability becomes more of a factor because it's not just me. That's why I says like you got to be able to take advantage of your youth in that way, because you're never going to have the opportunity you have when you're young in the future. Unless if you don't get married and have kids, then that's fine. You could do that too. But I plan to, have kids, be married at some point. So it's something that is right now something I got to take advantage of. So for me, I live in this garage apartment and I rent out the main house of the place. I've been living in a garage apartment for 3 years. Since December 2018, I've been living in this garage apartment and essentially living for free because I was able to, take the money that I'm saving and put it into my business. That's why I was able to spend $30,000 in all these different businesses and lose it all and not even feel the effects of it because I don't have a housing payment. So that's the biggest thing to understand. So house hacking is the ultimate number one way to get started in real estate investing. Everybody needs to house hack as soon as you possibly can. And I was so fortunate that, we started in 2018. Real estate was a lot different 3 years ago than it is
You
today.
ain't lying, man, because I'm looking right now. I'm still waiting. I'm stuck right now. I have to move, so
yeah,
I can't find nothing out here. Overpriced.
And that's in Dallas. Dallas is one of the hottest cities. Like I bought the house I'm living in now. I have a few rental properties. The one I'm living in now is probably my best one. It's because I bought it for $155. It's now worth it's over 200. It's worth 220, definitely now. And I live for free, and I actually make money living here. And it's like I live super comfortably. People think I live in a garage apartment like I'm struggling. Like no, I got the stainless steel appliances, granite countertops, hardwood floors, tile showers. It's hooked up. I spent the money to comfort, and that goes back to the spectrum of comfortability versus profitability. I still value comfort to some extent,
but even now, more, like the crazy part, real quick, like you're living in the garage. Like most people would do it the opposite way. They'll stay up top and they'll rent out the garage, maybe. Like you okay being in the garage, you fixed it up, and now you chilling.
Right. And that's the thing. That's why I suspect I could have been more profitable if I wanted. I could have said, I'm gonna even rent out the garage and I'm gonna go get a RV and I'm gonna put it in a driveway and I'm gonna stay in the RV. If I really wanted to be that extreme. Yeah. So that's why I say it's like real estate is so amazing because you can control where you want to be on that spectrum when you own the property. When you don't own it, you're at the mercy of whoever owns it. So that's that aspect of real estate. Now, since then, like I still like buy one house hack a year pretty much now. And one like property that I can like, move into whatever. But now what the primary strategy we use, because ultimately the goal is to still keep buying real estate even with having a business, which we'll get into. But the what originally I said I needed I wanted to make $10,000 a month for my real estate. So I said, cool, if I want to make $10,000 a month from real estate, I know I probably need 50 units that can cash flow $200 a month. So if I need 50 units that can cash flow $200 a month, how can I get 50 units? I could either go buy 25 duplexes, I could buy 50 single family houses, I could buy a 50 unit apartment building. So for me, I said, I would rather have a 50 unit apartment building or have all those units on one roof than having 50 houses, 20 houses, 30 houses. I would rather have 50 units on one roof. So I said, how can I get a 50 unit building? I would need to be able to put probably at least $1 million down to get a 50 unit, right? So how can I get $1 million? That became my new question. It's either I can keep working my job to get that $1 million, or I can flip some houses to get that $1 million. This was pre-business, or pre-starting the business. And so for me, it said, okay, if we flip houses, we can get to that $1 million a lot quicker than if we,
especially in this market.
Correct. So that's what the strategy became. So since then, probably since I guess 2018, we flipped like 10 houses. And it's getting a lot harder to find deals, so we're having to use some new strategies and to actually find off market deals. But we're still able to find them, and I don't have to use any of my own money to buy them because I use private money. So I've raised over $350,000 in private capital to buy properties that we flip, and essentially be able to flip the money and stash it away to ultimately get to a point where we can get a 50 unit apartment building and get that $10,000 a month in passive cash flow. But real estate, man, it's real estate is the ultimate wealth creator, because at the end of the day, there's like, and I'm gonna go into these real quick. There's four or five reasons I love real estate, right? Number one, the cash flow, right? Cash flow is what you use to buy your freedom, right? So after you pay all your expenses, whatever is remaining is your cash flow. And then we have appreciation. Like I said, the property I'm living in has appreciated to $220,000 just in the last 3 years. And actually $15,000 of that came in like June of this year. So in 1 month. So it's like appreciation is like, that's how your wealth is built, net worth. And then you get loan pay down, right? Every single month, my tenants pay down the loan. They are increasing my net worth every single month with debt, with money that I didn't, it's the bank's money. They're paying back the bank. It's not my own money. So they're increasing my net worth every single month. And then, number four is the tax benefits too. Like owning real estate is the ultimate cheat code to not paying income taxes. And this is not me giving tax advice, but let's just say my taxes the liability has been very low for the last few years because of the real estate that I own and the depreciation I get. So I'm not going to get into what all that is, but it is one of the best things. And then lastly, like leverage, like not being able to buy these properties with none of my own money, or using bank money or private money is like, it's really a cheat code that you can actually even do that, because I'll say this, there are very few businesses in the world where I can go to a bank and say, hey, can you give me, some money to buy this business? The bank will say, okay, let's say the trucking business, because I had this very well experience. I wanted to go buy a truck, and the bank, I say, I need a loan for this business, for this truck. They said, okay, how many years of experience do you have? None. It's my first one. They're like, okay, cool. Well, you need to put like 50% down or 60% down or something like that. I said, I really don't want to do that. So, but if I go to tell them, hey, I want to buy this property, they'll say, oh, okay, you can buy this and you only have to put 3.5% or 5% down, right? So there are very few businesses in the world where you can go and get a bit, because remember, when you buy real estate, you're buying a business. Anything that makes money is a business. So there's very few businesses in the world that I can buy with only 3% of the purchase price, or 5% or 20% of the purchase price, with no experience in that industry. So that's why I love real estate. That's why, even though my business is booming and I'm continuing to scale it, that money's going straight into real estate long term, because I know long term that's what's going to build my wealth and preserve my wealth, and I'm going to be able to have some wealth to pass to my kids long term. So that's the real estate play, man.
You hit on a lot, especially I want people to take this into consideration. Like, he had a plan going in of you were just gonna get the rental units. But it's crazy because now that you're saying all this, I'm thinking about like because I had a mentor out here in Dallas real estate, and he was he's similar. He's like you just take what the market gives you. A lot of people
Yeah.
will try to force like, oh, I'm gonna just do this. I'm gonna only do rentals. I'm gonna only do this that way, and that's it. But when you see, especially in this market right now, with this is the craziest market I've ever seen. Like you can't find properties really, and if you are, you're gonna pay. I don't even want to talk about how it is out here in Dallas. They offering 30 to 50K over asking price just to get a property out here, man. It don't. It really makes no sense. Like actually have a coworker that pay like 50 G's over, and so just understanding that aspect of it, it's tough. But for if you're on the other end of it, you are the seller, you are the real estate investor. This is how you stack that money. So you just being able to just take what the market is giving you instead of just being fixated on doing it one particular way. That's a hack right there in itself.
Yep.
So,
100%.
but I also wanted to get into real quick because you was mentioning just kind of break down real quick how you find your deals, because I know a lot of people probably like, oh well, how do you even find these deals if the market is so crazy? Like what aspect do you take?
Yeah.
Or what route do
So
you take?
first, primarily my primary strategy is using wholesalers. So wholesalers, if nobody knows, wholesalers are, or if, for those that don't know, wholesalers are those people that essentially they're the middlemen in real estate deals. So their job is to find motivated sellers that are willing to sell their property for a discount because they're in some sort of distress, either personal distress, the property's in physical distress, something that it motivates them to sell that property. So the wholesaler would tell them, hey, I'm going to buy this property from you. And instead of actually buying it, typically what they do is just assign that property to an investor because they know they can, let's say, they find someone, that old lady, whatever, she's willing to sell her property for $50,000 to the wholesaler. The wholesaler will say, cool, okay, I know that this property fixed up could be worth $200,000. So what they'll do is they will essentially mark up from that 50,000. They might mark it up to 70,000 and sell it to an investor. And the investor then will buy it at 70. The wholesaler will collect the difference between the 70 and the 50, make the $20,000 wholesale fee, and the investor buys it at 70. And the investor now is the one that puts the money into the rehab, and they buy the property, and then they sell the property, and they make the money off of the actual flip of the property. So for me, we use wholesalers. So we go strictly to the wholesalers because in this market right now, I mean, so right now, wholesalers, I don't even know how I should say this. So it's really hard to find a deal on the market, on the MLS. So if you don't like it, the MLS is where everyone goes to look for deals. So it's the most common place. So that's, if you go to Zillow, if you go to Redfin, Realtor.com, all those places, you're going to see that that's it's like a portal into the MLS. That's like, that's essentially like the place where I don't even know how to say it. It's like it's like the front rack of a store. But the wholesale is where you go to find stuff on clearance. So these deals aren't advertised like to the main public. They're sent to you privately from wholesalers because they have a buyer's list. So that's how I find deals primarily. Now, over the last few months, we've had to start doing some more off-market marketing ourselves in terms of like actually marketing for deals ourselves. So looking for these motivated sellers ourselves is something we're starting to do now, because wholesalers now today are it's becoming even tougher to find a deal with wholesalers because the market is just that hot right now. They're taking up a lot of the money as well. So that's what we're doing now. So we're doing some direct mail, we're doing some some text message campaigns. We're doing a bunch of different off-market strategies that pretty much put us in direct contact with the sellers so that we can avoid the middleman wholesalers. And because right now it's like wholesaler, there's properties that are so overpriced right now that even going to the wholesalers makes it tough. It's almost like you're on the MLS when you're talking to the wholesalers today.
Yeah,
So
I've been hearing that a lot.
yeah. So yeah, man, that's our main method for actually finding properties today. And it's something new that we're exploring with the off-market stuff. So we'll see how it kind of goes over the next few months, just because it's something new. But you gotta pivot with the market. Like things change. Market always shifts. You have to shift with it. You keep trying to do the same thing, you'll get left behind. So you gotta
That's
shift.
a fact. And one last thing before we get into this cleaning business, because that's a topic right there. So real quick, you mentioned something, and I know this is something that piques everybody's interest whenever they finally first hear about the whole private money thing. Being able to get into these deals with none of your money. Can you kind of just break that down real quick on how you're able to get into these real estate deals with $0 out of your pocket?
Yeah. So one thing, and I was just having this conversation, I think yesterday. One thing that people got to understand about real estate is that the leverage aspect. So, like I mentioned earlier, it's like leverage. People love to lend on real estate because it's a very safe investment. Like it's you get a depending on how much you lend, you can get a lien on the property. So in the case where if I'm a bank, they always get a lien on the property. If you're an investor and if a hard money lender or a private investor and you lend money, you can always get a lien on that property. Meaning if that person you lend money to doesn't pay you back, you can at least seize the property and you have some physical asset that backs up your investment. As opposed to if you just, lent on anything else, there's usually if there's no physical asset that actually increases in value, it's a risky investment. But that's why it's so easy to get a loan on real estate. Because it's a really safe investment vehicle for most people. So for me, you got to understand in real estate, there's typically like three ways people lend. So there's going to be credit-based lending. And so that's the most common way. So that's banks. When you go to a bank, they're going to lend to you based off of your credit and your personal profile, your personal, financial profile, right? So they're looking at your credit. Right. But when that's the first way. The other way is through asset-based lending. So asset-based lending is people that lend based off of the asset. They don't necessarily care too much about your personal credit or your, personal financial profile, but they care more about the deal that they're lending on. If it's a good deal, they'll be happy to lend on it. So that's a hard money lender. So hard money lenders lend based off the deal. They'll charge you a little more interest, but if it still makes money, it still makes money. It's still worth going to them. So that's actually the number one way I finance deals. But typically, sometimes the hard money lender, sometimes they won't lend the entire amount. So sometimes you either have to supplement it with your own money or you have to find someone else's money. So that's the third lending method. It's relationship-based lending, right? So we have credit-based lending, asset-based lending, and relationship-based lending. So relationship-based lending is going to be people that you know personally that trust you. So they're not lending because of your credit or your personal financial profile. They're not lending because of the asset. They're not lending because it's a good deal. They're lending to you because they trust you. They trust that you are going to get them a return. They trust that you are going to preserve their capital, right? So that is how I fund my deals with asset-based lending, hard money, and then anything that's not covered, I go to relationship-based lending, which is private lending. So I have individuals that I know personally that I've built trust with, that trust me, that they now lend to me. I've like I said, I've raised over $350,000 from people that I've been able to use to buy these deals with none of my own money. So combining hard money and private money, I can buy deals with none of my own money. So that's really how I've been able to do that. And it's like, once you understand that there's so much money out there and you just got to be someone that is able to preserve that capital and get an actual return, then there's never going to be a shortage of money. I wish the deals were like they were in 2008. I would be a multimillionaire 10 times over if it was 2008 right now, because there's no shortage of money. It's just a shortage of deals. So if you find deals right now, money is going to easily come. That's the thing. And every market is different. In 2008, it was a lot harder to get money because people were more scared, all those kinds of things. But today it's harder to get deals. So it's always going to be something that the market is giving you and something the market is, it's hard to get from. So right now, money is easy, deals are harder. Back then in 2008, 13 years ago, money was hard, deals were easy. So, you just got to, make it work. And that's just what being an entrepreneur, real estate investor is, knowing what the market is giving you and being able to pivot with it.
Yes, sir. And just for anybody out there kind of wondering, like, why would somebody give him money? Well, he's built up that trust, but you pay him interest, I'm assuming, on that, correct?
Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
Because I know people will hear that and they'll be like, oh, I can just get some money. That's it.
Yeah, no. So I typically have paid these. I pay these people every single month. It's like, for example, a lady, she lent me on one of my deals I did a few months ago. It was about a year ago. She lent me about $116,000. I paid her. It was around $967 a month. I think it was like 10% annualized. So I paid her about $967 a month. And you got to understand, these people are looking for a return on their money. These people are, people that have money in the stock market. They have money. They might have a lot of cash. They might have sold a property. They just need to put their money somewhere because they know right now inflation is stupid. You're losing a lot of purchasing power if you're just probably at least 4 to 5% every year right now, that if you're not putting your money anywhere. So they know, okay, I want to diversify. So I want to put my money in the stock market. I want to put my money in mutual funds. I want to put my money in real estate, and I want to private lend my money. So that's typically what I mean when it's like there's people that are in your network. Typically, I promise you, everyone's listening. There's someone in your network that you might not even suspect that has some capital. And if you can get them to trust you, meaning you number one, get the knowledge, you show them you are knowledgeable in real estate, you prove to them, maybe do a deal on your own using hard money. And then you go to them after you've shown them, hey, I actually know how to do this. I promise you, there's people that will be willing to lend to you in your personal network right now.
Yep. And if you ever curious, like most people I know that do this, just talk to somebody and see if they got a 401k. Most people that have jobs have a 401k. They can take a loan out against that 401k to do these type of deals. I've actually done it myself, so I can personally speak about that as well. So just take chances, have conversations with people that you never know who has money stacked up. Anybody can have money stacked up.
Right.
But I appreciate you breaking all that down for the real estate. But before we close this out, I want to get into this cleaning business, because this right here is the man's bread and butter that's, funding everything. So just kind of break down how you got into the cleaning business. Do you clean these houses? All of that.
Yeah, man. So for me, like I said, last year and really from 2019, end of 2019 to 2020, I had to figure out what was going to be my vehicle to give me freedom. And like I said, I tried almost 10 different businesses. So when I by the end of that, or by August, end of the summer of that year, I was trying the next one. Just so happens, one of the people we brought on the podcast, shout out Anthony and Janilka Hartzog, they started a cleaning business. And we talked about how they made like 6 figures in their cleaning business on that podcast, episode 38 of our podcast. And I was like, cool, that's dope. Well, they had released a course about how to get into the business. I think it was like last summer. So I ended up taking the course, and I started the business by the end of August. And from there, it was kind of like, okay, this is actually something that I can work with, because I like the fact that it was very low overhead. I like the fact that it was completely digital, and I like the fact that it was. I don't like calling things passive early on, but in the sense of like I don't necessarily have to trade in physical time to go make that money. So to answer your question, I don't clean any houses. In fact, I don't even go to houses. I don't do anything with houses. I make it a point to avoid doing as much as I can with like actually in the business. I work on my business, not in the business, right? And so one thing that I did was like I started implementing a whole bunch of systems. So like I said, I scaled the business from $0 to $200,000 within 1 year, and I mean the next 100,000 is probably gonna come probably in the next 2 months. So it's right now. It's kind of like I just got the business. The business is running like on autopilot now, but now I'm scaling it, and that just came from like putting systems into place, systems and automation. You talk about how you saw that I made like I made $9,000 while I was in Puerto Rico. Now people will see that and be like, "Dang, nice," and think like, "Okay, cool. I could just go make $9,000." Understand that comes from putting systems in place, because I wasn't there. I wasn't taking calls. I wasn't doing none of that. I have systems. I have staff now in place that handle everything. And what you got to understand from that is like, in order to scale your business, you need to put systems and procedures in place so that anybody can run your business. And so that's what the biggest thing for me was when I started that business. I needed systems to get into place so that I know regardless of who's actually in the business, it'll still operate, it'll still make money. So I can hire anyone. They can have no experience, but because I have systems, I have procedures, I have SOPs in place, they can learn, right. They can learn exactly what I need, what I want, how I want the business ran. So as an entrepreneur, that's your job. And this goes to any business. It's not just for the cleaning business. This is any business. Your job is to put the systems in place so that anyone can operate the business, so you can focus on scaling it and innovating the business. That's your job as the CEO, as the entrepreneur, is scaling the business, innovating the business. Day-to-day operation is not your job as the owner of the business. That should be for someone else. So obviously it's like, you gotta understand, you take a pay cut to some extent when you bring on people, because now momentarily or long term, now you have time to be able to focus on scaling the business as opposed to just working in the business. Even though you took a pay cut, long term, you're going to be more profitable because you're going to scale the business now with the freed up time that you have.
I think you mentioned you're going to other cities, right?
Right. So yeah, I just expanded into Austin, and right now that's like a learning process. So I'm learning how to run another branch into Austin, but that's just the first. It's going to be all over the country. It's coming nationwide. My goal is to scale the business into the top rated cleaning business in the country. And that's just my mentality with it now. And so I literally dissolved and liquidated every other business I had. I sold my truck. I sold, everything so that I can focus on this business. And that's the number one thing people got to understand. It's like, it doesn't matter what business you get into. You just, at some point, you have to focus. You had to focus on a thing. Because I know, like, the wealthiest people in the world, they don't become wealthy because they had, 15 streams of income early on. They focused on one thing, scaled it. And then from there, they were able to diversify, branch off into other things. So that's where I'm at right now in the journey.
That's definitely a bar, and I want people to really take in what he said. He put systems in place, man. And most time I say, systems save you some time, energy, and money. So that's what he's doing. He has SOPs in place, and if y'all don't know what that is, it's just standard operating procedures. Like, imagine when you go to Chick-fil-A or something. It's just certain things that they're gonna do. No matter where you go, you're gonna have the same experience. I don't care if you go to the Chick-fil-A in Texas or the Chick-fil-A in Boston or something. You're going to have the same experience no matter what. And so by doing that, he's understanding of how every interaction is going to run in his business, no matter where they're doing business at, whether it's in San Antonio or Austin or when he get going in Miami or wherever. It don't matter. So that's just something that people need to take into consideration, because it's one thing, like you did mention, not working in your business, but working on the business. Like, a lot of times that'll go in people's heads. Like, you don't want to be there just, doing all the work. Like you said, you don't clean houses. You have contractors that do that. You don't have to worry about all those different things. That's the benefit right there. So when you start having that in place, you free up your time to go do other things and scale. So he's still working on the business. He's just not the person that's necessarily having to do all the work. So that's something I want people to just remember and take heed of. Now, just because I know people how long did it take you to get this going and up and running, and about how much was like the startup costs?
Yeah, so it took about getting everything set up on the back end, probably about 3 weeks. And that was me working on it like a lot, like many, many hours a week. So I mean, now, it just it doesn't take what it took for me, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm more of a perfectionist. So I like stuff to be almost like perfect, which it's a flaw to some extent, to some degree, but at the same time, it's just how I am. It's just how I do things. Like I like things to have a certain level of quality before I launch it. So that's that. And it's not me procrastinating. It's just like if I attach my name to something, it got to have a certain level of quality to it. Yep. So it took me, 2 to 3 weeks to get it up and running. But it really didn't. It really could be done even faster. And probably to start up, it was probably around $2,000 to start up. And so that's, it's not too big of an investment, but at the same time, you gotta understand, it's like, the thing about this business is that your biggest cost is going to be your marketing, or your labor is your biggest cost. But after labor, actually running the business is going to be your marketing. The marketing is going to, right now, I spend probably maybe probably $7,000 a month in marketing right now, because that's just what you got to do. I look at marketing as an investment. So for me, it's like the more I can market, the more my name gets out there. I'm not gonna lie, I don't even take a lot of money out of the business. I reinvest a majority of it back into the business, into SEO, into other things that I know I need to do to grow the business long term, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like a lot of times people try to eat out of their business so early and taking profits. It's like you can't do that. Like I don't even expect, like, my business is profitable, but that's because I spent so much time putting systems in place, and I also had a lot of experience running other businesses. So like running other businesses teaches you a lot about business in general. So a lot of the things that I've been able to do is just because of my experiences that I've had. So, anybody could definitely do it, but just understand, it's like, if you don't get the same results I got immediately, it's not because you're not doing it right, or it's just because you're doing it differently. So, just understand that whole concept of, everyone's journey is different whenever you are starting a business. Everyone has different experiences from you. So everyone's going to have different results from the business. I don't try to, like, show everyone like the glory of, like, oh, you can go do this and, immediately start making money, because then you're going to be mad at me if you don't. So, just understand that, though.
But I also want to hit on the fact that you said that you're putting you're reinvesting into the business. Now, while people might take that as oh man, well then I'm not really making no money. Well, again, it goes back to that delayed gratification that we were talking about. Because if you can reinvest back into the business, you can scale quicker, grow bigger, and essentially, just like anything, you're gonna make more money just off the fact because you're way bigger than what you were. So I want people to take that in, like, just because you say you spend like 6-7 grand, but if you're making 20-30 grand a month, doesn't really matter. Are you really worried about that? Like, no, you're not worried about that at all. Now, my question to you, since you scaling like this, are you just gonna stick to residential, or do you ever plan on going like commercial, where you are doing like high rise and stuff like that and all that?
So right now, I'm more so I'm sticking to residential right now, but my whole thing is I'm trying to innovate the industry. So I'm trying to really be a disruptor. And so with that, I've really been studying my customer value chain in terms of, like, what are the processes someone goes through in order to book my services, in order to get their house clean. What is every single thing they have? Like, down to the detail. And I'm trying to innovate on that level, because I know those are the Airbnbs, those are the Turos, those are the Netflixes, those are, the Ubers. Those are those companies that come out of nowhere and have huge success in what looks like a short amount of time. It's because they disrupted what someone else was already doing. So that's what I'm trying to figure out, how I can actually, scale this business that way. Now, there's always like that. I look at that as like, I look at that as vertical integration as opposed to horizontal integration. Horizontal integration is, me, I can go start commercial, I can go do industrial, I can, expand into other cities. All that is horizontal, integrating horizontally. I'm trying to integrate vertically as well, so that I know, at the end of the day, I don't want to just be considered like someone that's just in the house cleaning business. I want my brand, my company, to be a household name. And people know that, this is a company that changed the industry to some extent because they did something differently. So I still have ideas in terms of like what I'm doing, but that's what I mean when I say it's like, as the innovator, as the CEO of the business, that's what you got to be focused on, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I know I can't focus on that if I'm worried about the day-to-day stuff. So that's why I have the staff in place now that handles, the calls. Like, I was just getting a call right now. She just picked it up. It's like, I those kinds of things are already handled, so I can focus on that kind of stuff. So to answer your question, I'm more so focused in terms of scaling and growing, getting into multiple cities, and then also innovating the industry so that, people, would know this business or this brand as if it's just like another Airbnb, another Turo, another one of those companies.
Okay, that's what's up. And just real quick, for anybody that's contemplating doing this, you mentioned the Heart Dogs.
Yeah.
You took their course?
Yep. So yeah, I took their course, and it pretty much gave me the blueprint to how to actually get started in there. And shout out to them, man, because they have a phenomenal course that they put together. And from there, I took what they gave me and I expanded on it, and I added what I did what I needed to do to add to it, and I, was able to, take what they gave me and run with it pretty much. So and again, as the entrepreneur, that's your objective. Because a lot of people come to me and it's like, hey, I took the course too, and I'm not seeing what you're doing. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, at the end of the day, your job as an entrepreneur is to figure out what is the issue and to solve that problem. That's your job. So, you definitely take the course, get the knowledge and all that kind of stuff, but you still got to figure out, like, if you're not, and that's why I tell people too, it's like, you can look at my results, look at my stuff, and you can see that, like, yo, I'm doing something a certain way. And that comes from, like, I tried so many other businesses, so many other things. I failed at so many things, and I've just developed my own experience. So that's why I said everyone has their own experiences. So yeah, but yeah, definitely check out the Hartrimony, the Heart Dogs, and check out their course. It's a great course, and definitely it gives you the blueprint to actually getting started in the industry.
Yes, sir. And I'm just glad you hit on that, because just because I think people had that misconception that just because somebody else is doing something well, that they can do it like that. You got to understand, like you even mentioned, you went through about 10 businesses, 30 grand. Sometimes you got to understand that just because somebody else good at it may not be for you. That's what I try to, like, I've tried, like, I'm just kind of like you in the sense, like, I've tried the Amazon FBAs and all of that, and I didn't really find my thing until I got into, like, stocks and crypto. That was my lane, and I understand that. But some people, they see you making money. They say, oh, you making, 4 or 5 figures. Like, you can do that. Teach me, put me on. That's their favorite line. Put me on. And it's like, I can't, what worked for me. That's why another thing people understand. Just because it works for me, all that matters is that it works for me. Right. At the end of the day, like, I don't care if it works for nobody else. As long as I'm getting what I need, the results I need, that's all that matters. Because a lot of people have that misconception of that. Like, oh, put me, especially with that whole put me on thing. Like, I can only imagine your inbox, because my DMs go a little crazy just off a little post here and there. I can only imagine what you got to go through, especially with the Hartrimony putting your stuff on their stories and all of that. So,
and I think that's why they don't be posting me as much, because they know people be coming in my inbox. I'm like, yo, at this point now, it's like, yo, I'm not on a payroll. So
like, it don't make no sense. And it's just like, another thing real quick, because this be bothering when people do this. If y'all gonna come ask somebody for some help or something, like, lead with some value for them, man. Like, I can't tell you, like, how many times, like we mentioned, that put me on thing, or teach me how to do this. Like, okay, if I already know how to do it, I'm successful at it, what is my incentive for helping you out? I don't even know you, especially if you don't know the person. I guess one thing, maybe if your friend can do that, I can understand a little bit. But if these are just strangers that y'all see a post, you have to be like, teach me, put me on, show me how to do this. And it's just like, okay, so what do I get in return? Like, you don't need the success story. Your success story is your business. So people, please, when y'all go asking people and flooding their inboxes, lead with some type of value. Maybe you could do his marketing for him, help him with that, help him make it better. Maybe anything, just like something.
And that's like one thing I mean, that's a dead horse that I think you're going to have to beat that horse every day for the rest of your life. Just being a content creator, because people just don't have that perspective of the fact that, like, just like them, there's literally hundreds of other people reaching out to the same person about, also, learning that kind of stuff. So just like what you said, man, leading with value is so key, because at the end of the day, it's like, I don't care to help you unless I'm getting something in the transaction. Like, to help you one-on-one, that's why we have the podcast. That's why we have, the YouTube channel. Exactly. It's to help multiple people. I'm not here to help you one-on-one individually, especially if you're not paying me. Like, come on. Number one, I don't even want your money, but now you offer me something like a coffee or a lunch. Like, bro, your $13 lunch is not worth an hour of my time to pick my brain, bro. Your coffee.
Man, that's the worst. That pick my brain line, man. I mean, like, bruh, what? Like, I got all this, especially when people like you that have content out here, like you were saying, like, that is really the worst. Like, you got courses and all of that, and you create these avenues for people to go to for a reason, because you probably getting flooded with all these questions, and and it don't even be detailed. It'd be simple questions over and over. It'd be the same thing. 100 questions, 100 DMs of the same stuff, and it's just like,
literally someone the other day had messaged me, and this is like the craziest message I ever seen. Someone was like, "Hey, can I be can I be your apprentice for 6 months free of cost to you? You just have to show me how we can do this." I was like, "Yo, there's no way somebody is actually saying this. Like, they got to be trolling me."
That's crazy. I ain't never seen nothing like that. That's crazy. I done got people in my inbox talking about I want to mentor me. I'm just like, bro, what? Like, set up a consultation call or something. Like, damn, like, and I don't think people are like, imagine those people that's got a 9 to 5 too. Like, they're busy. Like, they don't have time to be taking nobody on their way. So I just say that, just take that into consideration, people, when y'all be hitting people up, annoying them about putting y'all on game, when y'all could go buy a course that'll walk you step by step through this. That's the whole point of buying the courses.
Right. It's disrespectful at the end of the day. But
yeah, bro. But I just want to thank you, man, for coming through. I do one last segment, talk to the culture, run off 5 questions, and we go ahead and wrap this thing up, man. So, first question: what does wealth look like to you?
Yeah, man. So, wealth, man, to me, it's freedom. Number one, freedom to be able to do what you want on your own time and not have to answer to nobody. That is wealth. Because at the end of the day, it's like I always ask people this question because I love to put it in this perspective. If someone said, "Do you want to switch lives with Warren Buffett?" You can have his, $100 billion, but you got to be 90 years old, right? 99% of people will say no.
Yeah.
They will say no because they know it's like, I gotta be 90. I got $100 billion, but I'm 90 years old, right? I can't even enjoy it. I only got a few years left of living. So it's like, so that being said, time is more valuable than money, right? Yeah. So for me, having my time free is wealth. If time is the most valuable asset and we measure wealth in assets, then being time wealthy is that's the wealthiest that I can be. And so, and another perspective for that too is when you're younger, right? If you're 20 in your 20s, it's like, you got to understand you have, God willing, 60, 70, 80 more years to live. So you are time wealthy right now. And so you got to take advantage of that, take risks, do what you got to do right now when you're young so that you can buy your time back.
All right, man. Hey, that's a bar. Now, this next question, I ask everybody this. You can't say Rich Dad Poor Dad though. Just give everybody a book recommendation.
Yeah. So he said you can't say Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Everybody say that book, man. I had to stop.
That's an amazing book. But for me, I think my favorite book that I've read for business is a couple, man. It's a few. Cash Flow Quadrant is a great book. So you said I can't say Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's dang near
that's close, but I'll take that because nobody ever said that actually. Like, and I don't think people realize how powerful that book is because that's the shift right there. You know, when you start shifting over from that employee, self-employed over to the business owner, investor side. That is a great book.
Yep.
Now, this next question: what do you think is one thing the Black community needs to improve on?
The one thing I would say is the victim mentality. The victim mentality is probably the craziest thing that I see, just specifically among Black people, because I had posted 2 TikToks over when we was on vacation. I posted one that was like, it was when you achieve financial freedom at age 25, and it's kind of like, and it went viral on TikTok. It got like over 1 million views, and then the other one I posted was the one when I was on vacation, and I made like, $9,000.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But that one went viral. It got over 250,000 views on TikTok too. And the number one, some of the most common comments that I kept seeing was from Black people saying that, they can't do this, or everyone can't do this, or whatever the case may be. And it's just like, the fact that this is their default, it's a problem. The fact that your default is pessimism and victimization, that's an issue, because that means there's an issue in your head mentally in terms of like what you actually believe about yourself. So, and I think a lot of that obviously stems from just, obviously many generations of lack of knowledge on a lot of subjects, and just lack of information. So then the way to cure that is, man, it's information and education. Because the more it's like, even listening to podcasts like this, reading books, you realize that certain things actually are possible, even being black, even being from a certain area. So that is the number one issue. And that's, I think, the solution to it is education, information. And that's why what we do is so important in terms of the podcast and the content creation.
All right, man. That's a fact. And I'm glad you hit on that because not too people mention that. But my next question, what's next for you, man? What's next? What you got going next, like the next year or so? What's the plan?
Yeah, man. So, of course, the number one priority right now is training up or is scaling the business. That's like my ultimate priority right now, among all things, is scaling the business, innovating in the business, getting into more cities. Because I know that business is what's going to change my, family for generations. Because from there, we're going to buy real estate, and that's going to be within the family for more generations. So that's really what I'm number one focused on. But something else I'm really going to start trying to do now that I've left my job is traveling more. Because it's just people don't it's different, man. Not waking up and like doing what you want. Oh my God. Like that is another type of feeling. And it's just almost indescribable because it's just so blissful. And so I actually later today, probably in a couple hours, I'm about to book a trip to Spain next month I'll probably just go for September 8th to September, probably, I don't know, for probably a couple weeks. I don't know. I might book a one-way.
That's what I'm saying. Stuff like that right there. That's that wealth talk right there. You can just book a one way and come back when you feel like it.
And that's what I'm thinking. So, for me, that's what it's all about for me. Traveling more, making more experience, especially while I'm young. I want to just travel solo, be on my own, and just really be able to learn myself some more like that. So that's what's next.
Man, I should respect that, man. Now my last question. I'm sure people they already flooding your DMs, but go ahead and tell people how they can find you. Where you can see you at, man.
Yeah, for sure. So number one, definitely check out the podcast, Money Monopolizers. Check us out on Instagram. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We post on there as well. That's the number one place to get information. Learn. That's the number one place. But if you want to follow me personally, I post stuff on my personal page too. It's at Kamunyo, IKAMUNYO. I post stuff on there all the time. I do, TikTok skits, that kind of stuff. I don't know. I just be having fun on social media now, honestly, because it's just it's more so like I enjoy being on there, and I use it for different purposes, getting to network and meet different people. So it's dope, man. So yeah, you can check me out in either of those two places.
All right, man. Once again, bro, I want to thank you for coming through, man. Thank you coming on, dropping the game, bro. Congrats to you fucking quitting your job, bro. Like, that's crazy. This man say, just quit, bro. Just I'm done. 25 years old, 6-figure business, well over probably a 6-7 figure real estate portfolio at 25. So, I mean, like I say, man, ain't no more excuses for people. It don't matter your age. You can start now, you can start later. It don't matter. But to me, the best time would be now. And like we always say on this podcast, man, we're good at success for everybody around you still struggling. So each one reach one, each one teach one, man. We are out.